Okay, folks, it's showtime. Let's talk about the Fife Property Market update for last week, which is the 11th of December to yesterday, the 18th of December. I'm going to go through that. I'm going to go through the statistics, what's been sold. I'm also going to go talk about the website statistics, which is actually really important because you'll see a marked difference when actually the base rate was announced as a rise, and also the Scottish budget for the second home tax was risen as well. That's quite an important key point in the indicator for website traffic and activity. It shows you basically the second homeowners and where they're going and how they're thinking. And investors and holiday homeowners and serviced accommodation homeowners, which is for the tourism industry, and see how important that is. We're also going to be talking about the Scottish property prices. So the housing index was out for the end of October, just on the 14th of December. So I'll cover that as well in brief and talk about the Fife average property price as well. And then we'll come to some final conclusions about where the market is right now, where we're going. Remember, when I say where the market is right now, this is based on facts, figures, and information. It's not based on just a opinion or what I think is out there magically. It's not what the media is presenting, potentially. But this will show it, and you can come to your own conclusions. Feel free to comment if you want to as well. More than happy to take questions. I don't need to show the questions, so if you've got a question that you don't really want to show, you can still put it in the comments, but I will actually cover it if you like. And here we go. Okay, so let's look at the numbers across Fife for the last week coming. Quite interesting statistics itself. Now, in the Cooper area, you've got 6 properties instructed. You've got 4 properties actually sold overall throughout Fife. You can see the mark drop now. Eastnook 3 versus 2, St Andrews 3 versus 2, Levenmouse 3 versus 3, Dunfermline 3 versus 32 versus 30, Glenorchy is 36 versus 5, Kirkcaldy is 17 versus 11. 70 properties came onto the market. Now, it's usually about 120 to 140, so you can see that marked decline. This tells me straight away, by the way, this is the time to actually consider getting your house prepared to get it on the market so you can jump the gun and be ahead of the crowd when it hits into next year. We actually did a show about that yesterday. We're talking about that in a minute. I'll talk about that in a minute. So you can see they're sold as well, actually 57 sold. So it's not far off the mark. If you kind of double that up, it would be 140 versus 114. Yeah, no bad. Not bad for this time of year. But let's look at that for this time of year in terms of, this is our activity on our website, the last 30 days. This is the last 30 days versus the previous period. Okay, so this gives you a strong indication about where we are right now. So you can see the previous period here down the bottom is the dotted line, and then you've got the current period here, which is the thick blue line, and you can see, yeah, this is year on year. Remember, this isn't the previous period as in the previous 30 days. This is the previous period as in last year itself at the same time. So you can see actually there's a drop of about 7% in terms of activity on the websites, and that's fine. But you can see it kind of kept quite even until there you go, Scottish budget and base rate rise. You can see how it's separated. So this time last year, it started to go up still. And this time this year, it actually stayed quite stable and average. So you can see the big separate divide here. I think that's more or less for people to come to some sort of conclusion about where they are in terms of their property purchase or whether they'd like to go forward, because of just to digest information. I think that's what's key here. But you can see it's not really a significant drop in terms of activity. It's only about 6 or 7% year on year at the last 30 days, which actually is quite remarkable considering the doom and gloom that they paint the picture right now for. But there's some key information in the background here, which actually gives me hope, actually, out of these figures. So let's look at the 23 and break this down. This is the over what device that people search. So when they look on, most people clearly there out of this 23,000 actually look on mobiles. So you really have to have a strategy, and a estate agent has a strategy for a mobile in this format, not that format. Most people watch their mobiles like this nowadays. So you have to have a strategy, an estate agency strategy and mobile phone strategy for a portrait rather than a landscape strategy. Okay, so hopefully that's given you a wee bit of insight into mobile markets and how they work. So that's important that you get video in there as well, and photographs that actually adapt to that sort of market. That comes in line with the Instagram market, comes in line with the TikTok market. So you can go across a whole lot of platforms, because Instagram, TikTok tend just to let you, well, TikTok, for example, it's an emerging market and it gets a wee bit of activity, but it starts to get interest from people. It's not going to sell houses right now, but it will catch on in the next year or two as it goes further forward. And also Reels as well. Reels, Facebook Reels do not let you do landscape Reels. They actually insist on portrait Reels and have to be less than a minute. So in order to do Reels, which is actually the biggest market just now in terms of social media presence and video content getting pushed out, that's why you have to have an agent with a strategy for mobile phone, but in portrait format, which again, if anybody's just joined us, is that format rather than this format. Okay. So that's why that's really important, because that's where your biggest market is, right here. 1 year compared against the next, people are still continuing to use that and that trend. You can see the desktop market, the people on laptops, on fixed computers are actually dropping, and tablets as well, in favour of the mobile market. So you can see where it slid. It's actually the 23,000, this amount here, the 1,691 year on year, has actually been lost in the desktop market and the tablet market. So mobile's still pretty strong. Next one here is actually by channel. Now watch, this is direct search. This is straight to a website, which is a 5% drop. This is organic. This is just people looking in general. So organic searches are like they go into Google, for example, type in properties for sale in Fife. But less and less people are probably doing that as a result, and hence the reason why the organics had the biggest drop. But look at social, how that's jumped up 20% year on year. So social is where it's at. And again, I come back to saying, where do most people spend time on a social platform? On their phones. That's why it's essential to have a strategy for the mobile phone, because that's where the social media market is every single time. Right there. So social market is actually going up in terms of the activity. So social market is going up, organic search is going down, direct searches, yeah, it's staying quite even. Let's jump on to the next one to see where people come from. Interestingly enough, look out the 23,000, United Kingdom overall, people in United Kingdom has dropped by 2%, but look at Germany's going up a wee bit. That's people overseas in Europe probably looking to relocate. They've maybe been living here before anyway, and they're just looking to come back. Or they're maybe owners of property in this area, which we have on, which we do actually, and they're probably looking on the website as well as their friends as well. But look at the United States, how that's dropped quite dramatically. That could be a result of legislation changes in the whole of the UK, and in terms of the pound is actually getting a lot stronger against the dollar, so therefore making it less attractive, and second homeowners as well with the tax coming in. But we'll come on to that right now, where we come back, and that's where that's that bit there. That's where the second homeowner, the tax was announced to increase it from 4% to 6% in Scotland. So that's why potentially that might have put off people from overseas at the same time. Now, let's just jump on to what's been sold. I'll talk about some of the blogs and vlogs. By all means, as I said, if you want to say something, please feel free to put it in the comments. The show done yesterday on Christmas selling, what you need to do, why you need to start now if you want to make your move for next summer. Yeah, and I have said that. Why you need to start now to get your move for next summer. It is literally taking some conveyancers and solicitors almost about 4 to 6 months to get a property over the line. So when you're sitting in December right now and you're planning to move in spring, you've got a tight schedule there. You're really putting yourself under pressure, especially if the average property now sells within 6 to 8 weeks, which is about 2 months almost. So you've got 2 months and then you've got 4 months, and that's why you'll probably end up in summer if you actually start now on average. So in order to get ahead of the game, you need to start preparing now if you're wanting to move next year. If you're wanting to move in spring, get your skates on. Excuse the pun, ice skates and all that. But if you want to move in spring, you need to start doing now. You need to talk to agents now. If you want to move in summer, I would suggest you need to talk to agents now as well. Yes, we are still working, and we will still be working through Christmas and New Year to make sure it could happen for our customers. That's why it's important just to talk to us. If you want a casual conversation on the phone, feel free. We could do that as well. If you want a Zoom, we could do that as well. Because and don't put it off. You want to hit the ground running when it comes to the new year, you want to take advantage of what we call the Boxing Day bounce. It is the biggest surge in activity on Boxing Day, which happens right throughout the year on all the websites. It's the fastest climb in terms of activity in any part of the year is the Boxing Day bounce. So you want to take advantage of that time. And we talked about that in yesterday's Christmas selling show. So if you want to watch the Christmas selling show, tells you a bit more in depth detail, or listen to the podcast, it's on this link as well. Let me just pop back to what's actually sold for us this week, and gives you a good indication about what property prices are going for and when. We're just going to jump onto these couple here. This was actually Taylor Street in Methil, and this actually sold. It was a 2-bedroom maisonette upper flat, so on 2 levels, which is here and here. And this actually sold. It could be here and here, actually. I'm not actually sure about the exact property itself, because this was actually passed on to me. But this was on offers for 60,000. This shows that the street is actually recovered, because it was actually quite low before. So the street prices have actually recovered. Therefore, this is a 2-bedroom upper maisonette, and it was on offers over 60,000. It's now sold. The other one is, and I knew this was going to get sold, because I was actually coming in this week and going, wow, that's a great price point for Crail, actually. This was sold in 3 weeks in Crail. This is Wingfield and Crail, and it was sold in 3 weeks. 1-bedroom ground floor apartment, and it was offers over 125,000, and it's gone. This was an outlook right over the green. I'd be tempted just to sit in the sun all day long on that, in that park, just outside there, just on that bench there, and sit in the sun all day long and enjoy myself. That would be really tempting to do, and that is a way as well. So that's the ones actually sold. What's going to be coming soon? Let me talk about what's coming soon, what we're going to be doing. I'll be doing a pre-portal actually this week on one of our properties. I've actually been working in the background on it, in terms of the number of where it is on the video and the drone footage and everything. So West 4th Street in Cellardyke, this is a 4-bedroom terraced house. This has actually got a net loft, and then it's also got a potential to develop out the back in terms of the garage itself. It is a good garage. Premium parking there, so you can come in at the back, in terms of the back of the house, and then you can just come down your garden and then into the back door, or you can go along West 4th Street, you can park at the front, and you're in your front door as well. So it's actually a really good property, so I'll be doing that this week. 4th Street in St Monans, a 2-bedroom terraced house will be coming on. East 4th Street in Cellardyke, 4-bedroom townhouse will be coming on. Main Street in East Weems, a 2-bedroom ground floor apartment will be coming on. Blackhead Side House in Leven, a 6-bedroom detached house. I've seen the drone footage for that and the location for that. Wow, that's going to blow you away when that comes on. So that is actually, these are actually coming on soon. So if you're interested in any of these properties, what I suggest you do is you just actually message us, and when the time comes, when they're about to come in the market, we'll give you advance notice of maybe the pre-portal coming on, or maybe the particulars, before anybody else sees them. That's why it's important to register with every estate agent to make sure you can see them. Do not rely on Rightmove and Zoopla to give you notifications, because by the time that happens, potentially for some people, their dream home's gone, because someone else has got in there before you, because they took their advice and actually registered with all the estate agents, and they actually made sure they followed all their social media channels to make sure they would get first advance notice of notification. Even some of the websites like ESP, for example, actually put them on 3 days before they go on any other website. Don't know why they need to do that though, because that is actually disadvantageous to the actual seller on the other websites. But that's it. But that's the way it goes for that. So that's a different strategy actually. But they do. So make sure you just actually register with all the different estate agents to make sure you get first notification, advance notification of any properties coming on. It is still a 50-50 buyer-seller market. It's not all buyers market now. It's not all seller markets now. It is a stable market right now, and we are still maintaining prices over the home report value. I'll tell you about that just in 2 seconds while I tell you this. Did you know there's 142% more Fife homes in the market today than over a year ago? Yes, the property market's changed in the last 12 months with more Fife properties coming on the market. This is why it's taking a bit longer now to sell, because there's more choice for buyers out there. So therefore, you're now competing against other properties. So as a seller, you need to be aware of other properties that come onto the market, and most estate agents will actually tell you, just to keep you abreast of where your price point is in comparison to someone else's that comes on. After all, if you sit with your house on the market at the same price point all the time and never actually look at all the other properties coming on, it's possible that other agents are actually putting their properties on similar to yours just under that price point, point. Therefore, the buyers tend to see theirs first, and therefore they think, okay, I could get that for a more affordable level, and it's comparable to the one that I was looking at, what I've gotten with my agent. Therefore, they'll go for that one first, and then it's gone. As simple as that. So that's why it's important to actually make sure your price is actually right at the right alignment as the other properties, to make sure you're still competing against the other properties coming into the market and in the market right now. After all, the ones that you're competing against right now can actually put their price and realign it down in order to attract a buyer at a different level to push them back up. That is potentially another strategy which works very, very well in this kind of market. Actually realigning your price down to get somebody through the door to push them back up to the level that you wanted in the first place. Once people get into your house, that's the objective. Once people get into your house, the house will do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. And your agent, it takes them round, does a lot of the heavy lifting as well for that process. It's actually getting them through the door is the most important thing. And that's why it's important that the right listing at the right price at that point in time is key. Remember, you've got 70 people that put their house on the market last week. You've got about 60 actually decided to buy. You've still got roundabout on average 10 people making a decision every single day in Fife to buy or sell a property. You're only needing one person over the line. That's all you need. And you need the person that's going to suit your circumstances as well. We talked about that in the actual show. I talked about the other night about the 142% more Fife homes on the market today than over a year ago. I talked about the strategies that you can use. So again, you can watch that. You can read the article, or you can listen to the podcast. Quickly, let's talk about, quickly, I'll just talk about the prices actually, average prices in Scotland. This is actually quite an important one. This is the average price change in Scotland since this is the UK house price index I've got here. So this graph actually shows you the annual price change in Scotland over the last 5 years. And you can see that there in terms of percentage. But did you know actually the annual price change for property in Scotland over the last year is still 8.5%. Now it is coming down, as you can see. So that's you can see the graph going up and then it starts to come down. So there's no surprise if it continues to come down. It's when you get to about a year from now, you'll actually see property prices potentially dropping because there's actually coming down because they've gone up. So it has to equalize itself. And on an average rolling basis, it will actually demonstrate that. And that's why they're coming down right now, because month on month, the price change is actually changing. So the monthly price change for Scotland was actually 1.1%. So there's no surprise in terms of that. And it's technically, let me see what the economic statement is. This is what the economic statement, this is what they said. The average house price in Scotland has increased by 8.5% the year to October, increasing slower than the average UK prices of 12.6%, and up from 7.8% in the year to September 2022. On a non-seasonally adjusted basis, in other words, this is raw data, average house prices in Scotland have increased by 1.1%. Wow. So it's actually an increase rather than what I just spoke about. So compared with an increase of 0.4% during the same period last year. So they've actually increased more month to month from September to October on a non-seasonal adjusted basis than they were in the season before, 12 months ago. Okay. So that's quite an interesting one. So that actually shows you the price change over the last 5 years. And you can see there where it is. So we've been pretty stagnant for the last up to 2020. Lockdown obviously painted a completely different picture in our minds, and then we all went crazy and started buying property and thinking we need to change, we need to get an extra room, we need to get a bigger garden, we need to just have this, and it's great because it gave us some coherent thinking in terms of we all started to think of the same thing at the same time, think we need a kind of better lifestyle, and that kind of congealed that thought process. If it hadn't happened, it probably would have been staying quite stable, and it probably would have been under maybe about 6% on average all the time after that. But we are where we are, and in terms of there. So the price change was that. So the average price in Scotland at this point in time is £194,874. So how does that compare to actually 194,000? Let me just do a quick calculation here on my calculator I've got here. And I'll just do that. I'll do the times. So 31,000 is your average salary in Scotland. 94,874 divided by 31. So that's about 6.28 times average salary. That is actually pretty tolerable. Now in England, it's round about 10.2 times in terms of the price. Overall in the UK, it's round about 9 times. So we're still very, very affordable in Scotland in comparison to the rest of them. But what is it in Fife? In Fife itself, and I'll just jump onto that graph because I do have it. Here it is right here. Look at Fife. Fife is still 9.3% year on year in the month. And we'll just scroll down. I'll do that. Excuse me. That's October compared with the last year before. So you can see right there. Oh, actually, I wasn't showing that on the screen. Sorry about that. There it is here. So Fife is right here. So Fife is 175,629. And this time last year, it was 160,758 on average, which is a 9.3% increase. So it's a bit more than actually Scotland overall. And then when you take out the 175,629 divided by 31,000, because it's about that here as well, in terms of the average salary, you're talking about 5.6 times, under 6 times the average salary. Now, I'll tell you, in booming markets, in markets which boom, generally markets which boom, it is round about 6 times the average salary or under. So we're still very, very tolerable, and potentially, if there is any storm, excuse the pun, because outside, we could potentially weather that quite easily in Fife. Some of the higher end value properties will obviously have to realign their price point as they see people dropping off because they're too much at a high price point for them. But the average house price in Fife is actually still very, very tolerable compared to the average salary in Fife as well, compared to the rest of the Scotland and the rest of the UK itself. London's average price point is £545,000 for the average price in London. And believe it or not, the average salary in London is 31,000 as well, almost. And it's like, how could people afford that? I do not know. That's why most people probably rent in London. Anyway, so that's where we are in terms of the price points. So this tells us Fife's actually still very, very good in terms of the price point overall. If we look at some of the other ones, everybody talks about Aberdeenshire. Look at the top there, 206 versus 196 the year before, 5.3% increase in Aberdeen. The city of Aberdeen, though, now that's Aberdeenshire area, the city of Aberdeen itself, year on year, has actually dropped by 3%. That's the only one, I think, out the whole lot of them there, it's actually dropped, down. So it's still very, very, it's not, for a lot of investors, they're still investing in the Aberdeen market, but you can see the price point in the city of Aberdeen is actually less than average price than what we are as well. So potentially, there's speculators and investors that are actually investing in Aberdeen city centre right now, and the prospect that it actually might increase over the next 5 to 10 years with a surge in maybe renewables or maybe oil will see a surge and come back. So that's potentially why Aberdeen's like that as well. Dundee's next door to us. So where's Dundee about? It'd be interesting to see where Dundee is. It usually says City of Dundee. There you go. City of Dundee, actually very affordable. 156,400, up 9.7%. Other side, City of Edinburgh, 335,000, a 6.5% improvement in terms of house price. So you can see we're still very, very affordable in comparison. There's the graph actually shows you overall the whole of Scotland, the average prices. Now you'll see there I could see if I can make this a wee bit. No, you can't even make it a wee bit bigger actually. I'll get it in so it's a wee bit there. Okay, so you can possibly see it there. And now the ones in the blue are really average prices are very low down, and then the ones in the as you can see coming up to the orange are very middle of the road and average prices and affordable, and it seems to be it's like Fife in there. So Fife is just above, and then you've got next door Falkirk in that as well, and then you've got the really heated areas, which is Perth and Edinburgh in there, and that could be potentially in the middle there in Glasgow city centre, which is actually really expensive. And then you've got the Highlands and Islands up by Aberdeenshire itself, but not Aberdeen. You can see that's a wee blue dot there for the city of Aberdeen itself. So you can see Fife is very, very middle of the road and very affordable as well in comparison to the rest of the Scotland itself and the rest of the areas. Quickly just jump on to house types in Scotland. You can see the differential where it's all growing. Detached over the whole of Scotland, a detached. Now, we say the average price in Scotland is actually 195,000 or they're about 194,874. But if you break that down to detached, see how detached are really, really expensive. And then you get into the semi-detached area of 208,000, the terraced 165, and then flats are amazing at 131. This is why it makes it still quite affordable for terraced houses, because there is quite a few terraced houses and flats and maisonettes in the Fife area. Although house builders are beginning to build quite a lot of semi-detached and detached houses as well. But you can see where the biggest movements are. Flats and maisonettes, still poor relation, 5.5% increase. However, they've increased. That's probably the plus point. And anything below 131,300 for a flat or a maisonette is actually a very, very affordable. And there's the one in Taylor Street to sell at 60,000 offers over, a 2-bedroom, and that's less than half the price of this on the average. So it still makes it very affordable, especially if the average earnings is similar right across the whole of Scotland and Fife and the UK itself. So hopefully that's given you a wee insight into that. Number of transactions. Let's have a wee look year on year. So this is August 2021. This is the transactions for these statistics, August to August 2022. You can see there 623 last year in August was the number of properties sold. 606 was sold. So it's not a huge swing or a huge drop in the number of properties being sold in that period year on year. Again, it gives me full belief that the Fife property market will be very, very resilient in how it reacts to any further base rate rises, and also potentially in terms of that ADS, additional dwelling supplement increase. Although yet to come, yet to see where that comes through and how that comes through overall. Okay, so that is the Scottish housing market in terms of the prices, Fife housing market as well in terms of the prices and affordability. Finally, a couple of things I just want to talk about is what's completed in Fife. In other words, keys handed over. So keys handed over, completed in Fife, and this gives you a really good idea about what prices we're going for recently, probably in the last 5 or 6 months. So Peter Howling Anstruther, a 3-bedroom semi-detached house. This was sold for 8% of the home report value, so sold for 18,000 more, for 248,000. Bankino and Avenue in Tayport, 3-bedroom semi-detached house. It was sold in 2 weeks, 4% over the home report value, so it was sold for 178,000. Skeeth Road in Cellardyke, 2-bedroom upper apartment, sold 2% over the home report value, sold for 195,000 as well. There's a lot here, but you can see that similar. You can see that message now. You're not hearing things like 15 and 20%. You're potentially not hearing the 10% anymore. You're hearing 8, you're hearing 4, you're hearing 2% over. Bonnygate and Cooper, 2-bedroom terrace house, sold for 2% over for 122,500. Hasten Park, Balmollo, this was a 2-bedroom semi-detached bungalow, hence teeth. Hence the reason it went in 2 weeks for 11% over the home report value for 200,000. So that was a 2-bedroom semi-detached bungalow in Hasten Park and Balmollo. So if you've got properties like this in these areas, similar to these properties in these streets, then that gives you a good indication about what the current value is right now, plus or minus what you've done to it. Snowdrop Cottage in Kingskell, 2-bedroom cottage. It was sold in 2 weeks for 6% of the home report value, 177,000. Main Street in Springfield, 4-bedroom terrace house, sold in 3 weeks for 7% over the home report value, 235,000. Shuttlefield East End, Fruki, 1-bedroom terrace house, sold for 10% over the home report value, 142,675. So look at the percentages here: 8, 4, 2, 2, 11, 6, 7. And again at 10%. So most are round about the 5% level. So gone are the days, I would suggest, of the 10, 15, 20% over, because it's all built into the home report as it currently is, because that was from the year before. So you've already got that increase built into a home report if it's been done in the last 6 months. Therefore, how to move on from that is you're kind of looking at expectations probably around about maybe home report value of 5% over. In terms of buyers, if it's the house of your dreams and you're going to live in it for the next 20 years, then I would suggest, if you really want it and it is the house of your dreams, you go for it. And I mean by you go for it as if you put your best foot forward about the price you think you would be prepared to pay. Now, the price you think you'd be prepared to pay, there's 2 things out of this and how you get that figure. The first one is, if you get the property and you you've offered and you get the property, you don't look back and regret and think that you overpaid for the property. That means you're not offering the right price in terms of how you're thinking. The second one is if you make an offer and it's rejected, and you don't get the property, and someone else buys the property, and then you look it up on the land registry and find out how much they got it for, and you think to yourself, I would have paid that for that property. That's the figure you should have paid in the first place. So my message is, don't overcook it, don't lowball it, but pay the price. It's worth it to you. Classic example is here where I am right now. I've lived in my house for almost 20 years. Did I worry about the fact that I paid maybe 20,000 more than what it was valued at the time? Absolutely not, because it's effectively £1,000 a year. And to be honest, and the amount of increases that I've had in the property in terms of the value from when I bought it to when it is now, it's far outweighed that differential over these years. So it was worth its weight in gold to get the house of our dreams, and the house that accommodated our family and our growing family as well, in terms of the sheer size of it. So we will continue to live in this house probably for about another 6 to 10 years, in terms of because it's necessity and it suits its bill. So again, if you amortize that and spread it over the years that I overpaid, the 20,000 more over even about a 30-year period, it's even less every year. And again, I say it'll recover quite easily, because you know how much prices have moved up. Prices have moved up 24% in the last 2 years. They've moved up about 30% in the last 3 years in terms of where they were. So any price over and above, if you're paying maybe 10% over, and it increases in the next 10 to 15 years by possibly about 50%, then it's neither here nor there, and it's irrelevant really in the scope of things. It's the house you really want, and it's the home you want, and it suits your purpose. That's all it should be for. So hopefully that's given you a real good insight into the property market right now and where we are right now. But I would suggest that for most people, if you are looking at selling next year, you need to speak to an estate agent now. You need to get that. You need to get that right advice now. The last thing you want to do, and again, we talked about in our 142% more Fife homes in the market today. Actually, we talked about this morning as well. Perry and I actually did a show called "Preparing to Sell Your Property, Your Fife Property in the New Year." Now, that's on most social media channels right now, and it's got a link on our website right now where you can actually watch that show, listen to the podcast, or read the article. But it literally is about 20 minutes worth of advice on what you need to be doing right now to prepare your house to sell in the new year. So you can click on that if you want. It's in this post at your leisure and find out all about that. Last but not least, we've got the instant valuation tool again for rentals and for house sales. So if you want a valuation of your house without actually needing to speak to anybody, it's on this post. You can just click on that link. If you want to know about the Wealth Creation Show, the Wealth Creation Show will be on tomorrow. I will be talking about part 5 of my journey to financial freedom, how I made my first million, and what happened. Tomorrow I'll be talking numbers. I'll be talking about the first properties I actually bought, how I bought them, what lessons I've learned over them throughout all the years. Out of each property I've learned a lesson, and hopefully that will help other people as well. Now, to be honest, if I can get to that stage, if you've heard my journey and you've listened to the 4 other episodes before, or the 4 parts before, and you'll probably have found out by now, it's like, geez, I could have done that. Absolutely. And you can still do that right now. It doesn't matter what age you are, whether you're actually in your teens, whether you're actually in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, it makes absolutely no difference. Anybody can do any level of they want at any point in time they want. Based on advantages, if you're a lot older, you've got more experience. Therefore, you know what works and what doesn't work. Therefore, you could get there quicker. If you're a lot younger, obviously, you have to learn from other people who are a lot older and trodden that path to get there quicker as well. And that's where you learn from them. So in other words, the classic example is if you're jumping a hurdle, you want to watch somebody else jumping that hurdle first to see what style and technique they use to jump that hurdle. That's wisdom you learn by, rather than actually trying to jump the hurdle yourself and telling the boy, well, that doesn't work. Well, I could have told you that because I jumped it before you and I actually said that to you, not to do that. See that? One's wisdom, one's experience. So what I'm doing is I'm teaching people and telling them exactly what I did, and that's the wisdom you're imparting. Experience, you want to go through it all yourself, follow the same journey, you'll take it just as long and you'll spend just as much money doing it. That's why I'm doing it, for the Wealth Creation Show, to teach everybody and show everybody what I did. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow at 12:30. Tune in then if you get a chance. You could ask me questions as well. I'll be streaming live on TikTok. I'll be streaming live on Instagram and all our YouTube channels, and LinkedIn as well, and Twitter as well, and also will be on all our Facebook channels as well. We'll be sharing that as well. And until next time, guys, I'm Jim Parker for Fife Properties TV.